everyone, and welcome to the Mind Matters show of WESN Content Capital. I'm your host, Emily Anna Bachan, and this show is all about diving into the real talk, from mental health to conflict resolution and everything in between. These are the issues that shape our lives, and it's time we stop whispering about them and start embracing open and honest conversations. Together, let's challenge the stigma, spark change, and build a brighter and more compassionate future for the world. So let's get started. Today's first episode, I welcome our guest, Ms. Felicia Frederick-Davis, who is a clinical psychologist. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this week, we kick off on the topic of bullying among students and suicide awareness and prevention. In this episode, we will learn about how to prevent bullying among the youths and also suicide. So don't go anywhere and don't change the channel, as you'd be missing out on a wonderful opportunity to understand how we can prevent bullying, stopping bullying, and preventing suicide. Hashtag stop bullying, hashtag suicide prevention. So let's get right into it.
Sure.
So what are the different types of bullying that you see within the school sphere, and how does this actually impact students?
Right. So there are different types of bullying. And when we talk about bullying, it has three components to it. It talks about the intention, which is to create harm, whether it's emotional, psychological, or physical. There's also the repetition of the aggressive behavior. And the last one is a little iffy because it talks about in terms of the intent of the behavior and the repetition of it. Now, there are different types. There's a physical type, which we know in terms of the hitting and pushing
violence.
and shoving, yes.
Yeah.
There's also the verbal type, which is a nickname, the callings, you know, these type of things.
Yeah.
There's also the relational, where they tend to exclude others, you know, don't play with this one, don't do this, spread rumors. And then there's the digital. The cyberbullying. Yes, which is the one that's a bit more prevalent now among our young people and has severe impact upon our young people as well. Because it not only affects them in terms of physically in the interactions, but it affects them psychologically.
Right.
And this effect has both a short-term and a long-term effect. Yeah.
So how does bullying actually affect a child, let's say a student, when it comes to their mental and their emotional well-being?
Yeah, most definitely. So depending upon the different types of bullying, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether it's relational, whether it's cyberbullying, they all have the same effect.
Right.
It affects their self-esteem.
Okay.
Because at a young age, especially if we're talking about children in preschool, sorry, not preschool, primary school, secondary school, it could happen in preschool too. It does happen, true. More the physical, but it could happen in primary school and secondary school. The impact upon them has to do with their self-esteem. This is a time where external factors play a large role in terms of how we see ourselves, how we validate ourselves.
Yeah.
So being in that category of being bullied, it affects their self-esteem. It also leads to things like depression, anxiety. So it has sort of that spiraling effect that takes place. It contributes to loneliness, which then creates that stressor, and you know, and then it leads to other factors in terms of academic performance. Because then, I don't want to go to school because of what I'm experiencing, and then that social isolation. And it creates all these different factors having this psychological impact upon them, which could be both short-term and long-term. And the reason why I say long-term, there's a lot of studies that look at the relation between childhood bullying and the impact on adult mental health. So that's
because it's carried on straight when they're transitioning.
It does. It does. Yes.
Wow. So what are the signs that parents should look out for when it comes to identifying a student that is being bullied?
There are quite a few of them. They can be in different categories. They can be verbal, they can be behavioral, they can be emotional. The ones that we tend to notice most of the time would be the behavioral. So not wanting to go to school.
Right.
So every day you have a stomach ache.
It's like, mommy, daddy, I don't want to go to school.
Severe headache that comes on. And it's out of the ordinary condition. conditions that happened, so not wanting to go to school, outright saying that you don't want to go to school, the stress of wanting to go to school. You also see it in their academic performance. So you'll see a drastic drop in their performance and their interactions. So if they're usually more social and interactive and have a large group of friends, and then all of a sudden you see them, not interacting, not going out, not speaking, their group kind of gets smaller, or they want to be by themselves. Those are some of the behavioral factors to look at as well. And then the verbal would be expressing this distress. They become very angry and always, stressed out and frustrated. These are some things that we can pay particular attention to.
Okay, so how can the school create a safer environment for, prevention of bullying itself? Well, what are some of your thoughts on that?
So I saw this quote that said the witnesses actually lend to the culture of eradicating bullying. And by witness, we may make extension to your colleagues, your classmates, and teachers. So I think it's a holistic approach. So it starts with your administration, it's the teachers, and then your colleagues by creating a witnessing. And, if you see something, say something.
Yep, nice TTPS.
So say something, I always get the question, what should I do if I see bullying? And that's a very complex question. And I think it's a lot easier to tell them what not to do. That's a shorter list. And it's easier to follow. So first thing, don't join them. When you laugh and all these different things that are going on, you're kind of reinforcing the bullying behavior. Now, sometimes they may laugh because they don't want it to happen to them, which I could understand. But in teaching children that it contributes to the reinforcement of the behavior. Now, it may barrier you from experiencing it, but it leads your loved ones or somebody that you care about.
Friend or
That's
somebody.
it. They are going to maybe the recipient of it. So one, don't engage by laughing and contributing. And the second thing is don't turn a blind eye. Don't ignore it. Because when we do ignore it, again, it reinforces the behavior for it to continue.
That's right.
And the third one is to stand up. But
that's a hard one.
That's a hard one. But we don't want to fight fire with fire, and we want to reduce aggression, but therefore we don't want to behave aggressively.
Exactly.
So teaching students how to be assertive. How to be assertive rather than aggressive.
Standing your ground.
That's it. And how to manage your own emotions within those situations. So being able to stand up, by being assertive and also speaking up. So letting those in authority know.
Using your voice.
That's it, using your voice. And in terms from the teacher's perspective and from the administrative, I know a lot of schools have those anti-bullying programs. So we talk about creating a safe space. I kind of want to challenge a safe space because I want it to be a supportive space. It's safe space simply means that you can talk about it. You're safe to talk about it. But where is the support? I think that's it goes hand in hand with
definitely.
safe. So create a safe and supportive environment. Where we lend our hands to our colleagues, we create activities, group activities to include everybody. That kumbaya experience. You want to create that experience, whether it's from primary school or secondary school.
That's right. So I'm shifting. What role does social media, because we know the young people have access to phones and tablets and computers and all of that. What role does that play into the cyberbullying that we see that, a lot of students are, struggling with, and especially how it's affecting their mental health? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And again, it comes back to learned behavior. So I just mentioned reinforcement and these things. And it's all about a learned behavior. So even with cyberbullying and being exposed, first of all, being exposed to aggression on social media desensitizes us. It's like you get accustomed to it. When you talk to people.
Habituation, actually.
That's it. When people who live in areas where they hear gunshots all the time, it doesn't faze them.
No.
Where others are ducking and hiding. So it desensitizes our young people. And if that is desensitized, it now creates an avenue where it becomes a norm. And if it becomes a norm, it's acceptable behavior. So that acceptable behavior now perpetuates this whole idea of cyberbullying. Now, with cyberbullying, what leads to it being so severe, and the not the fact that they only have access to social media, but it's anonymous.
Yeah.
And it's a wider audience.
Yeah, that's right.
So it creates a severe impact. So when you talk about things like low self-esteem, depression, and anxiety, think about the effects of cyberbullying on those particular areas, 10 notches up. Because it's such a thing where it reaches such a wide audience.
Yeah.
And it creates that distress for the person who's being bullied. And it's over and over and over. We know once it's on the internet.
Yeah, can't get it down.
It's on the internet.
That's why folks and young people be careful what you're posting.
Most definitely, most definitely.
And coming from a youth, like I can tell you that it's a very dangerous thing.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And it creates that environment and where other people now are joining in and giving, and you have people who don't
anti-commentary and and the hate language and everything.
It's just all that.
It sets you up.
That's it. It takes a different perspective.
Definitely. So what support services should students go to if it is they're feeling like they're being cyberbullied on the internet?
Yeah, there are lots of support services. Luckily, the Ministry of Education has a whole listing of support services that they can contact. I know within the school system, depending upon the school district, they usually have a school guidance officer. So that's your first point in terms of the school aspect of it. Also talking to your parents, having an open conversation with your parents, and then accessing those free services. So we have a lot of hotline, services, and even mental health facilities as well. Those clinics, there's a whole list of them on the Ministry of Health website that you can access as well.
Okay. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit. I know we're talking about bullying and how we can prevent it when it comes to the youths, especially those going to school, because we've seen a lot of violence happening in Trinidad and Tobago. But we recently had a couple suicidal attempts, and also some of them died by suicide. And it's such a sensitive topic. And again, disclaimer to those who are watching, if it is something that is distressing you, feel free to take a break or turn off your TV, because this is a very important yet, a topic that is going to bring up a lot of trauma if it is you know someone or you yourself have experienced something like this. So when it comes to bullying itself, is there like a correlation? Do we see with youths that the one who's the victim in the situation tend to feel like they have suicidal ideation and whatnot? So what are some of the warning signs that we would see coming out of that? Can you share with the viewers so at least parents and teachers could be able to identify this?
Sure. So there is a correlation between bullying and suicide ideation and suicide attempts. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person who has been bullied will eventually cross over into suicide ideation, but there's a high correlation between them. And now when it comes to suicide ideation and suicide attempt, the symptoms and the signs and the warning signs are a little more challenging. Because they could be very subtle and misunderstood signs. So even when we talk about those behaviors and the signs and symptoms, we have countless stories where I never saw those signs. Those things never happened. The person never behaved any different from that they normally behave. But some of the triggers and warning signs has to do with feelings of hopelessness. That idea of, not feeling to be a part of, not feeling like you're a breeder, and not wanting to be a part of anything, or thinking that your non-existence would make the world a better place. So that feeling of hopelessness.
Ambivalence.
Yes. And a lot of mental health problems as well, like things like anxiety, depression.
Just contributing factors.
All these.
All coming at the person at once.
And it's not a factor.
And
that's
it's like a spectrum. It's very fluid. So there are multiple factors and multiple signs, and they can be very subtle and misunderstood, as I mentioned. And then sometimes young people tend to overmask, or they tend to mask these symptoms. So if they're very sociable, they tend to take it up a little bit more and be very sociable, trying to extra.
Mask, trying to mask the feelings. But most often it's depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, that feeling of hopelessness.
Yeah.
You also see it in the behavior as well. So isolation,
Yeah.
not interacting, not willing to go out. There's also in terms of their physical appearance, their eating habits, their sleep pattern, all these different things change. So it can be verbal, emotional, and behavioral
Definitely.
signs.
And would you say that it's very dependent as well on the personality trait that they have? Because if they fall on extroversion or introversion or even in the middle, ambiverts, then they might have different signs and signals the way they actually showcase that, I'm actually feeling pretty suicidal. And they may not even say it, but again, like you say, the behavior is what. So identifying that, how could the teachers and the parents actually approach this? Can you give us like an example if you know that they are struggling with suicidal thoughts, like you have an idea that okay, they are not feeling like they belong and that they are worthless and that they shouldn't be on this earth? Can you share an example for the viewers' sake to know how to navigate that as a parent and a teacher?
Yeah, so initiating that conversation could be very difficult for an adult because you want to be very cautious in how you approach it.
Yeah.
I always say in these circumstances, I prefer to make a type 1 error than a type 2. I prefer that I'm over vigilant rather than I miss it.
Yeah.
So in this case, if you know a student or if you're a parent and you know that your child's behavior, and as parents, there's always that instinct. And even with teachers, you're constantly interacting with the students and you'll know and miss when this behavior doesn't add up to how this child will normally behave. The first thing is to not panic. I know that's a hard thing to tell you.
Staying calm and collective as the one seeing it happen.
That's it.
Yeah.
First thing you have to do is get your emotions under control because you can't support if you can't provide the support.
Correct.
So first thing, don't panic. Don't be judgmental. That's the very first thing.
Yep.
And the second thing is listening. Now, we need to be cautious and talk about what we mean by listening. Listening not to respond. Listening to give the person space to talk. Saying, well, you shouldn't feel like that. There are other people who always, no. Listening to give the person a space to talk. Because when you think about it, those suicide ideations or those thoughts, are you talking to yourself? I mean, it sounds really bad, but in essence, that's it. You're talking to yourself.
It's that little voice in your head.
So giving the opportunity for you to have a voice now. So where I am going to listen. I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. I know it's hard for you to talk about, but I'm willing to listen. So first thing, don't panic. No judgment and listening.
Active listening.
Active listening. That's it. Oh, Emily. Active listening.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to don't fool them into thinking that you're going to be secretive about it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, truth be told, you don't have the skill set to deal with the current issue. You're providing that support, yes, but you don't have the skill set. So let them know, I care about you.
Yeah.
And the fact that I care about you, I want you to get the best help and support that's needed.
Definitely.
That's when you're going to engage with professionals.
Professional help that they could seek out afterwards.
Yes.
Okay, so what are some effective coping strategies that you would share for students that are experiencing suicidal ideation and it's affecting their mental health itself?
Yeah. So some of the, and again, these techniques, you can do them in combination, change them, the different types of techniques. One of the things is to get into some hobbies. Think of some ways where you can kind of channel those emotions that you have. So get into hobbies, painting. Some good things would be some breathing exercises. We have what we call the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. So it simply means, especially if you're feeling anxious, so you feel those thoughts coming up. So the 5 is to find 5 things that you can see.
Okay, your sensory.
That's engaging sensory to kind of ground you, right? So 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch. So you start 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear.
Right.
So paying attention to surroundings. That's it. 2 things you can smell and 1 thing you can taste. So kind of engaging your senses, it grounds the individual. What works for me is breathing exercises. So 4 minutes of taking in that deep breath and 4 minutes of holding it, you do those breathing exercises. Now, when we talk about exercises, engaging the whole body.
Yeah.
So when we
Yeah.
exercise, it releases endorphins.
Yeah.
So simple things like walking, you know, I always tell my students, walking from one class to the next is not exercise, although it feels like that.
Yeah.
But getting active, being active, also centering yourself and finding a place where you feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different techniques. Some people use journaling. I've recently seen what they call a vent page.
Oh, wow.
So it's a vent page.
Okay.
It's similar to the journaling,
right.
to just leave everything on the page.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you could probably crumple it and throw it in
That's
garbage to
it.
get rid of the negative thoughts.
Because it helps you to process your emotions as
Right.
well. Because in the time, it's kind of hard to process. That's
Yeah.
why we have that support.
Yeah.
So when you write it and you go back and read it, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, this
I was
is
a bit.
yeah. and really and truly, is that how I feel? Is that how things are? So it gives you the time to process it as well.
That's right. So how do you think the school system itself should handle situations where students are being bullied and then we have the victims feeling suicidal? And, you know, they're expressing thoughts of, well, if I'm being bullied and my peers don't like me or I'm not good enough, I don't want to go to school. How do you think the school systems should, you know, get in touch with these students and their parents to help the situation? What are some thoughts you have on that?
Yeah. So I know in terms of the school body itself, I think what one might be helpful is having those mental health clubs.
Yeah.
And it's student run. Obviously, we have to have teachers, you know, be
Of course,
trained
so
to be able to
supervise it,
supervise.
yeah.
But having those mental health clubs on the, I go to the campus, within the school system as well, it gives the students the opportunity to provide support. It allows them to be able to have a safe and secure place to talk about things, bullying, as well as talking about suicide ideation. The testimonies that come from their own peers tend to resonate more.
Right.
Rather than having, we can have professionals coming in and talk, yes. But when they hear it from their, you know, their own peers, they're familiar persons just like them, it does something different.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about what you did and what you didn't do.
No.
No, talking about the emotions that you've experienced and how you were able to overcome those emotions.
Right.
And focusing on what we call emotion-focused coping. So that's where you start teaching these young people about things like resilience, things like self-worth, you know, not looking at external validation, but your identity, your sense of self-worth, you know, developing your confidence. So have activities, games, things that showcase their talent and their contribution. So you're creating a haven where the emphasis is on the individual and what empowering them.
Yes.
You know, what do you have, the skills that you have, how do you empower and create a community? I think that's most important. You know, it's hard to think of when you're going through situations that you're all by yourself.
Yeah.
When you have a community to share that with.
You're not alone.
That's it. That's it. It makes the burden a lot less. Yes.
Less stressful, and it's much easier to navigate
that's it.
going forward.
Yeah. And you can learn from each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. So as we are coming to the end of this episode, I want our viewers to think about this question. How many more young lives must be lost before we take bullying and mental health in schools seriously? We need to think about that and build a community like Ms. Felicia Frederick-Davis said. And if we can teach students algebra and history and so on, why can't we teach them compassion, empathy, and how to recognize the signs of someone that is suffering in silence or in pain? Think about that to my viewers that are watching today. And I want to just share a couple self-help tips for this week. The first one, I know we touched on it, was to talk to someone. That's the first thing. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a trusted friend or family member or anybody that you know that you feel safe with. And the second thing is to create a safety plan. Make a simple plan where you don't feel overwhelmed. Include who you want to call. Include persons where you would want to actually go. You know, places that make you feel safe, right? And of course, limit exposure to harmful environments, and that would also be inclusive of your social media. Put down the phone if it is causing you to have negative thoughts or ideation. Turn it off. Take a moment, take a deep breath, mindfulness, breathing exercises. And the fourth thing, build self-compassion and reclaim your identity. If you're a youth and you are suffering in silence regarding suicidal ideation, or if you have been bullied in the past, make sure that you don't doubt your self-worth itself, and remember who you are. And last but not least, engage in healthy discussions and coping tools. And this just means doing what feels right to you. I mean, what coping mechanism work for one person may not work for the other, but find your niche. If you like art, if you like music, if you like to dance, do those things. It will help you. So, important reminder to anybody who is feeling suicidal, any thoughts of feeling overwhelmed, please seek immediate help. And just remember that you are not alone, and there are people who care for you and they will help you through this. So that's just a little note to remember. And a couple resources that I'd like to share. If any youths or anybody is facing challenges, you can check out these resources. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have Young Caribbean Minds. That is actually a digital hub where you can find numerous things about mental health, as well as the directories for each Caribbean country, but we have it for Trinidad and Tobago. There is the Ministry of Health Mental Health Services. There's also FindCareTT.com, which also encompasses TTAP, which is the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists, and they have many psychologists tailored for you. Whatever you are facing challenges wise, you can reach out. A couple hotlines, there's Lifeline TT and Childline TT, and so much more. These resources are designed to support you and your mental health and well-being of individuals across Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you so much. Up next, catch us on another episode as we continue the conversations around mental health and conflict resolution. Don't miss it. See you until next time on the Mind Matters show of WESN Content Capital. I'm your host, Emily Anna Bachan, and thank you for tuning in.